This is an instructional video on how to solve systems of equations using the elimination method. So the most important thing to note is that one variable, and it doesn't matter which one, x or y, of each equation needs to have the same number that's called the coefficient, but different signs, meaning one needs to be positive and one needs to be negative. If they do not, you need to multiply the entire equation to make them match. And what you multiply by will change depending on the equation. And we'll do several examples. Once the variables have the same, once they match, we're going to cancel those sections out. Combine the remaining sections. Combine like terms and solve. And then we're going to plug our answer back into the first equation. So the first thing we're looking for is to see if any of our variables match in the two equations. The first equation, negative 4x minus 2y equals negative 12. And the second equation, 4x plus 8y equals negative 24. These sections match, the negative 4x and the 4x. They have the same number, 4 and 4, but they have different signs. The top one is negative, the bottom one is positive, and so we cancel those out. And we can go ahead and solve the rest. This negative 2y plus the 8y is going to give us 6y. Negative 12 and negative 24 is going to give us a negative 36. Our last step is going to be to divide. The 6 and the y side by side means multiply. We do the opposite and we divide. Negative 36 divided by 6 is negative 6. Now we are not finished. We have to take that answer and plug it back in. It's a y equals 6. And so we're going to plug that back into that part of the problem. So the negative 4x minus 2 stays the same, but instead of writing y, we're going to write our answer, negative 6. We write it in parentheses because the negative 2 and the y side by side means multiply. We do the opposite, we show multiplication with parentheses. Now when we solve the equation, we start by multiplying and distributing that negative 2. Negative 2 and negative 6 is going to give us a positive 12. Still combining like terms, plus 12 and the negative 12 are on opposite sides, so we do the opposite. Instead of plus, we do a minus 12. Negative 12 minus 12 is a negative 24. And our last step is to divide. The negative 4 and the x side by side means multiply. We do the opposite and divide. Negative 24 divided by negative 4 is a positive 6. When you write your answer as the x value first, so 6, and then the y value, negative 6. For this problem, we have x minus y equals 11, and 2x plus y equals 19. The sections here in the middle, the y values do match. because they both have a 1 in front of the y. Remember, if nothing is written, it's an understood 1. And they're opposite signs. One of them is a minus, one of them is a plus. And so we can cancel those out. And we can go ahead and combine the remaining problems. This is a 1x, and 2x is going to give us 3x. 11 and 19 is going to give us 30. Our last step is to divide, because the 3 and the x side by side means multiply. We do the opposite, we divide. 30 divided by 3 is going to give us 10. We take our answer and we plug it back into the top equation. We take our 1x, but instead of x, we're going to use our answer, because x equals 10. 1 times 10, we multiply, we distribute first. 1 times 10 is 10. Combining like terms, 10 and 11 are on opposite sides, so we do the opposite. Instead of 10, we do a minus 10. 11 minus 10 is 1. And our last step is to divide. The negative 1 and the y side by side means multiply. We do the opposite, we divide. 1 divided by negative 1 is negative 1. When we write our answer, we write the x answer first, 10, and then the y answer, negative 1. For this problem, we have the two equations, negative 6x plus 5y equals 1, and the equation 6x plus 4y equals negative 10. Looking here, these problems we can cross out because they have the same number, 6, with both x's, but one of them is positive and one of them is negative. Then we can solve the remaining problems. 5 plus 4 is going to give us 9, so it's a 9y. 1 minus 10, or 1 and negative 10, is going to give us a negative 9. Our last step is to divide. The 9 and the y side by side means multiply. We do the opposite, we divide. Negative 9 divided by 9 is a negative 1. We're going to take that answer, we're going to plug it back into the first equation. Instead of our y value, we plug in our y answer, y equals negative 1. We start by distributing and multiplying our parentheses. 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. Still combining like terms, minus 5 and 1 are on opposite sides, so we do the opposite operation. Instead of minus 5, we do a plus 5. 1 plus 5 is 6. And our last step is to divide. 6 divided by negative 6 is negative 1. When we write our answer, we write the x value first, negative 1, and then the y value, negative 1. For this problem, we have the equation negative 2x minus 9y equals negative 25, and the equation negative 4x minus 9y equals negative 23. Now, we are very close because both of these have the same number, 9, but they're both minus signs, and we need one of them to be a plus sign. So we have to change one of the equations. We are going to change one of the equations by multiplying everything times a negative 1. Anytime you get a problem where everything looks good, you just need a different sign, we can change it by multiplying by negative 1. Now our equation is going to be negative 2x minus 9y equals negative 25. We did not change the top equation. And the bottom equation is going to become a positive 4x, a positive 9y, and a positive 23. Now the numbers are the same, but the signs are different, and so we can cancel them out. Combining the rest of the problem, negative 2 plus 4 is going to give us a positive 2x. Negative 25 plus 23 is going to give us a negative 2. And our last step is to divide. The 2 and the x side by side means multiply. We do the opposite, we divide. Negative 2 divided by 2 is going to give us a negative 1. When we finish, we take our answer and we plug it back into the first equation, negative 2x minus 9y equals negative 25. But instead of writing x, we're going to write our answer, negative 1. We start by distributing and multiplying our parentheses. Negative 2 times negative 1 is a positive 2. We can go ahead and combine like terms. 2 and negative 25 are on opposite sides, so we do the opposite operation. Instead of 2, we do a minus 2. Negative 25 minus 2 is a negative 27. And our last step is to divide. The negative 9 and the y side by side means multiply. We do the opposite, we divide. Negative 27 divided by 9 is 3. When we write our answer, we write the x answer first, negative 1, and then the y answer, 3. For this problem, we have 8x plus y equals negative 16, and negative 3x plus y equals negative 5. Again, we are close with this problem. Both of these y values have a 1 as our coefficient, but they're both plus signs, so we need to change it. In order to change it, we are going to multiply the entire equation by negative 1. The top equation we're going to leave the same, and the bottom equation becomes a positive 3x, a negative 1y, and a positive 5. We change each number. Now that our numbers match, the coefficients are both 1s, but one is positive and one is negative, we can cancel them out. 8 and 3 is going to give us 11, so 11x. Negative 16 plus 5 is going to give us a negative 11. Our last step is to divide. 11 and x side by side means multiply. We do the opposite, we divide. Negative 11 divided by 11 is a negative 1. We're going to take that answer, we're going to plug it back into the first equation, 8x plus 1y equals negative 16. But instead of writing x, we're going to write negative 1. So 8 times negative 1. We start by distributing and multiplying our parentheses. 8 times negative 1 is negative 8. Still combining like terms, negative 8 and 16 are on opposite sides, so we do the opposite operation. We do a plus 8. Negative 16 plus 8 is a negative 8. And our last step is to divide. When we divide by 1, the answer stays the same. Y equals negative 8. When we write our answer, we write the x answer first, negative 1, and then the y answer, negative 8. For this equation, we have 5x plus y equals 9, and we have 10x minus 7y equals negative 18. Looking here, none of the numbers match, and so we want to try to find the simplest problem that we can. So there are two that we can do. We can turn this 5 into a 10, or we know that this is a 1, we can turn the 1 into a 7. Either one will still get you the same answer. I find it easiest to multiply by the one that I need a 1 value from, because I already have a positive y and we have a negative y. All I need to change are the numbers. So when we multiply, 7 times 5 is going to give us a 35x. 1 times 7 is going to give us a 7y. 9 times 7 is going to give us a 63. The bottom equation we are going to leave the same. 10x minus 7y equals negative 18. Both 7y and minus 7y now match in coefficients, but have different signs, so we can cancel them out. 35 and 10 is going to give us 45, so 45x. And then 63 minus 18 is going to give us 45. And our last step is to divide. 45 divided by 5 is going to give us 1. We're going to take that answer, we're going to plug it back into the first equation, 5x plus 1y equals 9. But instead of writing x, we're going to write our answer 1. We start by distributing and multiplying our parentheses. 5 times 1 is 5. Still combining like terms, 5 and 9 are on opposite sides, so we do the opposite operation. Instead of 5, we do a minus 5. 9 minus 5 is 4. And our last step is to divide. When we divide by 1, the answer stays the same, and we get y equals 4. When we write our answer, we write the x value first, 1, and then the y value, 4. For this equation, we have negative 3x plus 7y equals negative 16. And negative 9x plus 5y equals 16. So we need to look and see which number can we change to make it into a problem that we can solve. We can change this 3 into a 9 by multiplying by 3. We know that 3 times 3 is going to get us 9. But we also need to change the signs. Looking at this problem, both of them are negative, meaning when we multiply, we need to get rid of that negative sign. So when we multiply by a negative 3. That's going to change our sign. So multiplying negative 3 times negative 3 is going to give us a positive 9x. Negative 3 times 7 is going to give us a negative 21y. And negative 3 times negative 16 is going to give us a positive 48. The bottom equation, negative 9x plus 5y equals 16, is going to stay the same. Now, the 9 and the negative 9 match in numbers, but are different in signs. And so we can cancel them out. We can go ahead and solve the minus 21, and the plus 5 is going to give us a negative 16. 48 and 16 is going to give us 64. And our last step is to divide. We divide by negative 16 because the 16 and the y side by side means multiply. 64 divided by negative 16 is negative 4. We're going to take that answer, we're going to plug it back into the first equation, the original first equation, negative 3x plus 7y equals negative 16. But instead of writing 7y, we're going to write our answer, negative 4. We start by distributing and multiplying. 7 times negative 4 is going to give us a negative 28. Still combining like terms, 28 and 16 are on opposite sides, so we do the opposite operation. Instead of a negative 16 and 28, we do a plus 28. Negative 16 plus 28 is going to give us 12. And our last step is to divide. We divide because the 3 and the x side by side means multiply, and we do the opposite, we divide. 12 divided by negative 3 is negative 4. When we write our answer, we write the x value negative 4 first, and then the y value negative 4.